Hi.
Hello.
I'm Kim,
Sam.
and we are going to be talking about Planet Money Tree makes the T-shirt.
Planet Money.
Whatever. Planet Money.
Whatever.
Sorry.
There's a money tree in
Sorry,
t-shirts.
NPR. um, but we chose that dialogue, and yeah, Planet Money makes the T-shirt. Sorry, NPR. Um, so to answer the first question, what did you dislike about the topic or story? For me, I liked it because it was like nicely laid out and it was in a format that was um, not overwhelming. It was easy to follow. They had the video portion of it, and then after the video, they had the supplemental information that kind of um, further explained or gave more in-depth information about the topic. So I thought the setup was really cool.
Yeah, I agree with
Um,
that.
and it was happy-go-lucky way of explaining really shitty conditions for other people and
Yep.
how it benefits us Americans.
Yep.
So in that regard, it was very lovely and it was easy to follow.
hmm
Um, Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So in terms of I agree with all that. I think that there's some really cool stuff just in terms of the like digital storytelling component that I thought was really well done. So yeah, you mentioned there's like the video and then there's all the supplemental information. I thought that those really played well together. So the videos could stand on their own, and then the text and graphics could stand on its own as well. So I think that that's like a good example of the interplay working really well there. And I thought that it was presented in a way that's like there's a lot of information presented, but it wasn't overwhelming. It was pretty well laid out in like a digestible, manageable way. If it was much longer, I think it would have been a little bit harder to follow. But I thought that they did a good job of like hitting key points without really overwhelming the audience, viewer,
Yeah, like you
reader.
didn't lose interest
Right. Yeah.
because by the time you were like started to drift, it was like it's done.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. 5 quick sections, each with one video, and then like a page or two of supplemental information.
Yeah, with graphs and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, I didn't really sounds superficial. I didn't really think about the negatives. I was like, oh, this is nice. It's really put together well. So I didn't think I was sad when they were talking about the was it 2013
Yeah. The
in
collapse.
Bangladesh when the whole factory collapsed. I thought that was a good piece because it was very emotional and it made you think about the negative things that happen and the things that they didn't talk about. So in that regard, they made it so happy-go-lucky that it didn't make the issue totally complete and realistic of,
Yeah.
what's true to the actual cause.
Right.
So, um, that could be a dislike, but as far as like getting people excited about their t-shirt, it was
Right.
spot on.
Right. Right. For sure. Yeah. I mostly agree with that. I think. Well, I'm a, I don't know, critically minded person. That's not exactly. I'm very critical of stuff. And so I was pretty critical of a lot of things in this. I think specifically what you mentioned with like they just kind of glossed over a lot of the stuff that I think is the most important story to tell when it comes to garment production. So I think that I mean, in 2018, like I think that one of the most important things to tell is how messed up of an industry this is. So you have the section that was talking about the people who make T-shirts was split into two parts. There's the woman in Bangladesh and then a woman in Colombia. And that was the longest section, so they do get credit for that. The video is like 7 minutes long when most of them were a minute and a half. And I think it did go a little bit into the background there, but I really think that you're doing them a disservice and a disservice to all of the people around the world who are working on creating things like this if you don't dig a little bit deeper there. And I mean, they stopped short of really casting blame, and I think that that's not reasonable. So they talked about the collapse of this garment factory in 2013, but they didn't talk about the people who were responsible for like dust and safety standards. They didn't talk about the people who'd been making money off of this. They didn't name the companies that had been making their clothes there, although there was a picture. I think it's H&M. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
So I think that that was just kind of a missed opportunity there. to really get into the like I don't know, darker side of
Nitty-gritty.
this. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of my personal bias. So I don't know
And
if
they
that's what
did
everybody's
for
going to see.
the lady for Colombia, they did this like whole like she's picking herself up and gonna
Right.
start her own business and she's 1 year away from having the money.
Uh-huh.
Like that's not the story for everybody.
Right.
So
Right.
they made it seem like you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you can be an entrepreneur if you
Right.
just started at this market or
Right.
this garment factory, and anybody can do anything as long as they save and work here for like 20 years.
Right. Although one thing that I thought was good that they did is this was interesting and not what I would have expected. They talked about interviewing it was activists and then one other party. I should know this about what should be done in response to these like factory collapses and working conditions. I forget exactly who the other person was, but somebody who's more on the production side than the activists who are like concerned about people working in sweatshops. And what I was surprised by is that both agreed that the worst thing that you could do is take these industries away.
Yeah. It was like the state government, somebody. I forget who it was. But yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. Like if like human rights activists are saying like, this is a messed up system, but like you can't end it because that's going to be bad for the community. I thought that was a valid point that they brought in there and not one. I was kind of surprised by that.
Yeah.
Although actually probably not that surprising.
I liked how they did mention how that the garment business isn't going to be going anywhere anytime soon because there are no other countries that are going to be cheaper or who have cheaper electricity. Like it's just not going to be a factor for anybody. And like usually with China and other places, and how they had two pictures of an American child or woman in a garment factory in early American history, and then the same picture of the women in this like Bangladesh or Colombian factory. I liked that side by side, and it was interesting to see that how we progressed as a country from there, and then China did the same.
Right.
But that Bangladesh can get better, but as long as they make other, they have going to other industries, but it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think that's kind of what I was saying. Like, I wish they had like dug deeper into those like other things. But although, to be fair, we both like celebrated the fact that this whole thing was like kind of short.
Yeah.
So if we're giving it credit for like presenting this in a digestible sort of way, we also sort of have to acknowledge that they can't get into all the like deeper stuff that we'd like to see.
Yep.
So who knows? Maybe that's a different story.
Yeah, a longer story.
Just a couple like quick hitters on things that I thought were really cool. So it's split up into 5 sections. There's like cotton, machines, people, boxes, and you.
Yeah.
I thought the machines one was super cool.
That was really
cool. Yeah, it's like a video that
that's so cool.
Yeah, just like shows
how
all
cotton
these
goes
like, crazy
from
machines work.
The seed
to
the pod to how they spin it and pull it and twist it.
Right.
And then the different like thicknesses and of the fibers that
make
different
I also
genres.
I also had that in my notes. So yeah, it says like denim looks like this, and like a dress shirt looks like this.
It was so cool. I was like, I didn't even think that everything was like made out of thread. Like you just don't think about how minute everything is to create this fabric, and it gets so soft and malleable. It's just weird.
Right. Yeah. But really cool to like see that background stuff.
Yeah.
Other things that I liked. Those are the main things.
Yeah. I just liked the whole process because I'm completely oblivious.
Right.
I'm like, I buy a t-shirt.
Right.
And that was it. So it was just really enlightening for me to see the whole process, and that most of the cotton comes from the United States.
Right.
It's not surprising, but at the same time, like we're like, grow it here, ship it there, then buy it back, and then have it back here.
Right.
We're all really interconnected. And the boxes was really cool. I didn't know about how boxes, shipping containers were created. That was neat.
Shout out season 2 of The Wire. Mom's trying to shout out the wire.
Oh my god, that was perfect.
It's all spent on the docks. There's lots of shipping containers.
That was perfect.
All right, so moving on.
Question 2. How might this topic or topic be used to shape our own teaching and learning? Actually, funny thing. So, in my classroom, I have my CT does 11th grade Passages, and Passages is the DCIS class that you earn your international school network diploma. So you the first semester you're writing a 15-page paper and doing the research, and then the second semester you're doing like a hands-on project that you have to present and show and get the community involved in. And one of my students is actually doing fashion, and he's like learning how to sew, and he's learning how to repurpose like vintage or Goodwill clothing into newer clothing.
Nice.
And so I actually gave him this video to look at and to like kind of have background information, and he was really grateful. So
that's awesome.
I felt like a hero.
Who is that?
Raul.
Oh, cool.
You know him.
Yeah, of course he would be.
Yeah,
he's very well dressed.
He is very well dressed, and he doesn't come to class.
No, he never does.
But I caught him in the highway same day.
That's awesome. Let's see. Yeah, so I think that's a good example of like how you can bring this in for people who are interested in this type of stuff. To bring it back to what we were talking earlier about how the way that the like videos and the like words, I guess, complement each other.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important thing to think of when you're teaching.
Yeah.
So, it could be how the videos you bring into the classroom complement your lectures, or it could be how your PowerPoint complements your lectures, or it could be how the textbook complements the PowerPoint, or whatever. But I think it's important to think about, and I think this is a really good example of the way that those things can really build on each other to create like a stronger overall product.
I was also thinking to differentiate and support the students that have, like I have a few students who are really low, both in their native language and in English in reading and writing. And part of their like modifications or accommodations has to do with text to audio and pictures, and kind of limiting how much reading and writing is needed, because that's like a struggle for them. So I was thinking this would be great for a student who doesn't necessarily have to read the all of the words underneath the videos, but they can watch the videos and really get a gist of what is being taught. And so it kind of helps me to think about how much am I talking and presenting in Word format in my PowerPoint in my lecture, and how much I can supplement that in like an alternative way for them.
Yeah, I think that's a great reminder. There's a lot of kids who I forget that kids need differentiation in some of those things sometimes. So like there's one student in particular who I've sometimes forgotten that I need to write things down for as well. So I'll just say like, this is what you're going to do. Okay, go. And she just like sits there like staring blankly into space. And then I remember like, oh, right. Like this is, you need things in writing. So then I like have to write it down on a sticky note and hand it to her.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a really good point you bring up about how it's important that those things kind of play off each other.
Yeah.
Sure. What is your biggest takeaway? The questions are over here. That's why I keep looking over there. Biggest takeaway? I mean, honestly, I learned a lot about how clothes are made.
Yeah.
I know that's not like a big digital story thing, but I would say probably my biggest takeaway was just like the point of the thing, which is like, let's teach you what this whole process is.
Yeah. Like I learned something. If there was a learning objective, I learned it.
Yeah.
I learned it.
Yay! You learned it.
I learned a lesson. So now I can tell someone how to make a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Or refer them to this video.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was or just remembering the needs of different people. And I think digital stories is a more interactive and better way for people to learn things instead of just like reading. That's like old school. And now everybody wants to have a video and graphs and interaction. So like that's just the way people are nowadays.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, there's a lot to take away here in terms of just like differentiating your product being your lesson content, things like that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ask your own questions. Keep the conversation moving. Do we have our own questions about this?
No. I mean, it makes me want to buy a cotton field and grow cotton because
Yeah, dude, they're making lots of money.
and even if you don't grow cotton, they still pay you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, actually, now that you mention that, this is also in my notes. They're just coming back to the beginning. What did you like or dislike about the story? One thing that I didn't really like is that there was a mention in how cotton is grown of subsidies, and how cotton growers get subsidies, and some subsidies are like if prices drop, or some of them are designed to stabilize the market. But there are also direct payments. So
Cash.
exactly, it's just money. Take some money. Like you grow cotton, you're making probably millions of dollars, almost certainly millions of dollars for these like large scale farming operations they're referring to, and they through the farm bill just get direct payments. This was not a big surprise to me because I know that a lot of our subsidies are really screwed up as a country, but in the same way that I think there was a missed opportunity with talking more about the background of sweatshops, I think there was a missed opportunity to talk about like why that is. Like if I didn't know anything about the farm bill or if I didn't know anything about subsidies, then I would have read that and been like, huh, we just give people money. That's weird. And then move on.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing.
Right,
People should know
like,
that.
if you don't grow cotton, they still give you money.
Right.
I need to go into the cotton business. So.
And actually interesting, I know this from other work that I did, but if you own land that has had cotton grown on it, you can often have those subsidies for life, even if you no longer own that land or no longer produce cotton. So it's a kind of a messed up thing that we do. I know subsidies are silly. I mean, they're not all silly, but some of them are silly.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I really need to look into that.
Yeah. We'll make you happy.
That's okay.
Let's see. Anything else we want to talk about here?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Well, we asked all 4 questions, and we're between 15 and 25 minutes, so I think we nailed it.
Yay! See ya!
Bye, everybody.